Welcome to the Mastering Masters at Toronto Metropolitan University. Welcome to all of you here in the room. There's about counted 15 people in the room. We have 21. We obviously have to take 3 off for the total technical setup. So 21 online. Expected or signed up for this session have about 70 people altogether. So even if they can't make it tonight, this will be recorded. This is being recorded right now and will be available on our website. There is a current recording that will be substituted with this recording. Some things have changed. So if you want to listen to it again and scroll back and so on, you can listen to me again, have the fun again. So welcome to everyone in the room. We have, I will introduce them shortly, but we have what we'll be walking through this evening, and I'll introduce a few people that are important here as well. This whole session may be around 40 minutes if it goes well and quick enough, and then we'll open up for questions, also for people online, that you can ask your questions. You can put them in a chat, or you can unmute and ask your questions. We'll make sure that we monitor that and that your questions are also respected. So an introduction, I'll talk about the Master of Architecture program background, why you should study Master of Architecture at Toronto Metropolitan, what is a thesis, because that's a major component of our master program. Everything you're interested in is, of course, admissions requirements, admissions process, how to contact us when you have questions, and as I said, questions in the end. So I am Paul Floerke, the Associate Chair, the Graduate Program Director for the Master of Architecture program. Mimi Lam is over there as our Graduate Program Administrator. If you study here, you will be in touch with her most of the time. Aina Aro is our Graduate Admissions Officer. She oversees this gigantic amount of applications that we have for this program. I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, around 400 applications. They're not all domestic. It's a split between international and domestic applications, slightly more international than domestic. So we are in demand. And that is all reviewed by Aina to make sure that all requirements are met and that the procedure is also nice and smooth for you as well. So maybe they both can add some words or interrupt me if I say something wrong, or correct me if something has changed or whatever. In the room also with us, not on the slide, but is Lisa Landrum, our new chair at the Department of Architectural Science, who's listening in today. Welcome as well. And Toronto Metropolitan University, you know, formerly Ryerson, was established in 1948, a degree granting institution in 1973, and university status now for about 30 years. The Bachelor of Architectural Science was revised in 2007. The Master of Architecture program established 2007 and CACB accredited 2010. So this is a relatively young program, if you wish, compared to European programs for sure, but also they have gone through a bachelor and master's change over the last 15-20 years. Used to be diploma oriented. So, and we're also very proud of that, both of those accreditations. So other than some other universities that are also here in the province, and we have an accredited undergraduate Bachelor of Architectural Science in Building Design. So a lot of you here in the room are studying currently here at the department. So you have then a qualified accredited degree, which is one of the requirements to move into the Master of Architecture program. If you do not have this kind of accreditation, or if you have something that we think would be missing in your portfolio of courses, then normally there would be something that would be called a conditional offer. You would have to make up for those courses in our program. We offer that as well, if it's possible. So why attend the Master of Architecture program at Toronto Metropolitan? First of all, it's about critical thinking. Critical thinking, one student sitting in the room already in our program, Evan, in the back there, knows exactly what that means. It's really something different than what you've been doing in the 4 years of the undergrad. Not saying you have never been critically thinking about your projects or what you're doing, but you are moving into a more depth of critical thinking and critical processing. This means that the projects will also be different. They're not a classically comprehensive design. That's something you've already exercised. We don't want to see you repeat what you already can do. We want to further your knowledge and extend it. Small class sizes. So at the moment, we have 24 students, master students in our undergraduate program in the first year, and our graduate program in the first year. And in the second year, we have 18 or 19 students. Our target is around 25 domestic, 24 domestic, plus whatever we can accommodate as international students, but we seldomly go beyond 30 students for one cohort. And in that cohort, you are exposed, for example, in studio, to 2 professors who team teach at the same time to the cohort. So a small class size. Personal supervision. Personal supervision, I hope Evan can attest to that, on weekly contact time that we have in studio, but also supervision of theses. So when you move into the second year of the program, I'll get to that later, you have a supervision of your thesis project that you were working closely with a professor. And this is a lot of contact time one-on-one. You even have a second reader who supports you with a different perspective or a different opinion on your subject. So unique thesis, I already moved into that. I'll show you examples later. That is something that is defined by the student in collaboration with the supervisor, but is more or less intended to be independently driven by the student. So what you are intrinsically motivated in, that is what you bring to the table. And that is something we support you into with our expertise, if possible, and hope most of the times it is possible, for you to find your path through the thesis project. The unique thesis the thesis project, as we titled it, is not something that is offered at every university. A lot of master programs are still focused on the design, but often they come from programs that do not already have a comprehensive design or something that is so elaborate, what you're doing in third and fourth year here at the department. So that is something they then further in their master's programs. A making lab. So we have a very good workshop here in the building. It's very well equipped. We have one workshop manager and 2 assistants. So we have 3 people in the workshop helping out. Even IIT in Chicago only has 1 person. So we're very well equipped. And we have a robot arm, we have laser cutters, 3D printers, anything you can imagine to produce actually architectural proposals or 3D modeling with. And we offer study tours. So the study tours we offer are located mostly in the fall term, and I'll get to that a little later, what that is actually about. So these are all the things we offer at Toronto Metropolitan, and this is what we think makes us very attractive as a Master of Architecture program. And of course, Toronto. So you're in Toronto, you're in a major city in North America, a vibrant city, a diverse city. Everyone living here knows that. Toronto, this is City Hall, one of the most diverse and multicultural cities on the planet, extremely dynamic, home to world-class architects, and we also attract a lot of world-class practitioners as well. Just a few examples, if you haven't seen it and you haven't been to Toronto, from Santiago Calatrava, the Lambert Gallery in Brookfield Place, or the Michael Lee Chin Crystal in the Rome from B&H and Daniel Liebeskind, or the Art Gallery of Toronto, AGO in short, Frank Gehry, which is being now, as I understand, extended again. This is an interior view of it. Or the Sharp Center for Design, OCAD, by Young Wright and Will Alsop. even our own building here on the left, the Student Learning Center by Snøhetta in collaboration with Zeitler. This is the inside of it, the beach, one of the areas on the third floor, I believe. The one on Bloor at Yonge in Toronto, Foster and Partners, all well-known names. King Street West project, again by Frank Gehry. Proposal for King West development by Björk Engels and Group, which is under development now and being built. Famous Denmark office from Denmark, and the House of Worship in South America in Santiago de Chile from Hariri Pontarini Architects from Toronto. Something that is also very interesting that is developing now along the lakefront is the Victory silos. These are old concrete silos, and they are being converted by Schmidt Hammer Lassen Architects from Denmark, who won the competition. So also a very interesting building. So that's Toronto. Lots and lots. You could show more and more of all of this beautiful architecture. And so the graduate program in architecture will prepare you and to create what we call this future designed to strengthen your ability. We focus on 3 program themes: sustainable design, emerging technology, global communities. Under sustainable design, we can unravel that and unfold that. There's also adaptive reuse. There's how we deal with heritage now and in the future. So there are many other topics under these major keywords that you can imagine. So you all know sustainable design. We're faced with unprecedented environmental, economic, and social cultural challenges on the global scale. We've made that as a theme in our one of our previous master studios. I'll get to that a little later as well. It was titled Pale Blue Dot, where we specifically addressed the global crises that we were going to face, emerging technologies. So what is our toolkit? How can we actually respond to these? And global communities, not just focusing on Toronto, not just focusing on Ontario or even Canada, but going also beyond. How do we connect with the world? What are our ideas? A lot of students come, especially our international students. We have one from Peru now, one from Bangladesh, 2 students that are actually rooted in Iraq, that bring their interests, their knowledge, and what stirs them into the studio. So architecture program and degree requirements. So as part of our Master of Architecture program, you can find this all on our website as well. You can go to the website, graduate programs in architecture, you find all of this as a drop-down menu as well. So it's not hidden information. And you're required to successfully complete 2 studios, 5 core courses, and 2 electives, which are outlined on the courses page. So that is when you are in the program, what we ask you to do. Then we have something we call collaborative competitions. That is very open. It's for you to exercise your interests and your knowledge outside of the classroom in a collaborative kind of exercise. That can be a competition. That can be also other collaborative activities that you can do. And then the thesis, what I just outlined, working closely with a faculty supervisor. So the minimum length of time to complete the degree is around 20 months. The maximum length of time to complete the degree is basically 36 months. After that, we basically terminated. We've only had, in the past, since I've been here, 10 years, 1 case where that actually happened. But it's the first year is a fall term, winter term, and a spring summer term where we offer an elective. You can choose to take it or not. And then that's primes you and prepares you for the master thesis. And then the following winter term, fall term and winter term, you complete your thesis. And if everything goes well, the end of April, final thesis presentations, all here in the building, the whole cohort, the whole class, and you pass and you're done. These are what the studios and the the studios and the courses look like and the way they're titled. So studio and critical practice, seminar and critical practice, contemporary architectural theory in the first year. You can see even from the way they're titled and their also their nomenclature 1, 2, 3, they are intended to work as a unit together. So even though you are taking them as separate courses, we as colleagues work together. We know exactly what the instructor is teaching in the seminar or in the contemporary architectural theory course, and try to make sure that that somehow blends in and overlaps and weaves into what we're doing in studio. And in the winter term, it's the same thing, a studio and collaborative practice. Then there's a preparation course for thesis and design research. How does that actually work? What does research and design research look like for an architect? There you are prepared for that. That sets you up like one more time clearly for your thesis. And there's another seminar in contemporary and future practice, which is, and we are switching instructors there now. We have a new hire who will be teaching that course, Jennifer Esposito. And she will be bringing in many different kind of perspectives on the way practice can be exercised today. We all possibly know through co-op or whatever kind of experience we have what a conventional office setting looks like, but there are many other different kinds of settings for being a professional in architecture, and maybe even what future practice looks like. What does it look like for women in architecture, in architectural offices, for example? What's that like? Jennifer is very strong in that area with her expertise as well. So that is all of these things roll into this course here. And then the second year, as I said, fall and winter, you have one current topics. Sometimes you can choose there what you are going to take that can accompany your thesis, give you another view on it, can be also just something totally different you are also interested in, and then another elective that you can possibly do in the fall term there. Some often do it also in the winter term, but we suggest doing it in the fall term, and then you finalize your thesis in the winter term, and you're done in April. Traveling, studying abroad, or taking you on a study tour. We often try to connect, if it's possible, the studio in the fall term with a special architecture or exhibition on architecture. In the past, it has been often with the Biennale Architettura in Italy, in Venice. So this year, and through COVID, we missed one. And then offset with that was always Chicago, biannual. So 1 year Venice, 1 year Chicago. Unfortunately, through COVID, they have been now aligned. So Venice and Chicago are happening at the same time. What this meant for us, we had to choose. We're still coming out of COVID, and we thought it would also be a great opportunity for us as a studio with the students to go to the, this is Venice, might recognize it, to go to Chicago. So this year we traveled with the students to Chicago Architecture Biennial. This is titled "This is a Rehearsal," and visited exhibitions there. Had a kind of sneak preview of the actual exhibition that wasn't even started yet. And how many days were we there? 5 days, 4 days, 5 days. You were only 4 days. It was 5 days. And took a look at this. So, but still, we try to fold in the laboratory of the future. A lot of it is online and virtual. So try to make that these themes come into studio, even if we could not travel to Venice. So those are the study tours. So just one more as a summary so that you understand how this works. Again, maybe a little more visual. The fall term studio and critical practice. These two courses orbiting around the studio, moving into winter term studio, collaborative practice. It's a little more slightly hands-on, a little more practice oriented. Thesis and design research, seminar and future practices, orbiting around, and then you have your thesis research through design. Studio. These are some examples from Studio so that you get a little bit of an impression of what when we talk about critical thinking in Studio. Do we have any questions up to here right now? Anything? Okay.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes?
Just this is back on the courses for the courses that you offer per term or per semester. I noticed that you don't have any work terms or co-ops. Is that are they still there or built into the program somehow, or are they just not something that's offered?
Our co-op program is organized in the undergraduate program.
I see.
So we offer the co-op program for our third year students before they go into fourth year. So it's for them a break between third and fourth year. That's when they go on co-op. So most of for let's say for Toronto Metropolitan students that come into our program have if they have chosen, have already done co-op. We do not offer co-op in the master's program.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah. And one more question about the very first point that you mentioned about the competitions. Is that something that's picked for you by the program or by the
no
the course professor, or is that?
No, these collaborative competitions or collaborative exercises. They are picked by the student. The student picks them, and they come to me as the graduate program director. They have an instructor that will monitor their work for them, and then I approve that that's okay to do as a competition. You pick it yourself, self-driven.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome. So Studio. Some impressions of Studio. This is studio work that was done by students investigating Venice. So in the studio, what's happened? Stepped on it. In the studio, in critical practice, you're required to research, identify, and confront specific issues and develop an architectural or design response from a critical perspective. So where normative practices approaches the architectural project as a synthesis of program, typology, site, and budget, something you're totally used to in the third year. And whereas relatively predictable, what you're going to have as a building solution, critical practice challenges the architect to consider innovative solutions that may reside outside the confines of conventional architectural practice. So your acts to consider the role of the architect, architectural practice from a variety of perspectives, observe, critique, design, explore the role. So it's you're actually opening it up, tearing it apart, and looking into it one more time. So this is basically the way we have been structuring the first year studio at the moment. It starts with drawing data or ethnographic drawing or doing drawn research. There's always a mix of that. We're not set on that. That's just an idea for phase one. Then we have something we call phase two as a maquette or a creative transfer where you break your understanding one more time, an entrance through a physical kind of exercise, the problem one more time on an abstract level. Could show you what that might look like. And then you revisit your research one more time. And through that, you have a kind of applied research phase where you develop a proposal for the problem you have identified. So it might sound very abstract, but it can be also very concrete. These students worked in a team together and identified, for example, in Venice, tried to audiograph like a audio landscape around this special square and church in Venice, and then modeled the volumes through these kind of maquettes that they were doing. So they investigated the different kind of modulation of volumes through this kind of creative transfer, making these. Or another student questioning the ceiling, wall, floor, volume of a space, and what happens when we spin these or have a different interpretation of what that space might be limited by, or what the boundaries of that space might be. This is taken from the one called the studio titled Pale Blue Dot. This is the creative transfer phase. So you can see there is a variety of different explorations around different topics. So this is the second phase. It's a short phase. It's about 1 week, 10 days. It's not that long. The research phase is more, you're probably more familiar with. So this is a publication. We've had followed now with this studio with 2 publications so far. Pale Blue Dot, these were the students. If it's also available online, you should be able to find it if you want to look into that a little more in detail. The most recent one is titled Vacant City. It was a studio around vacancies and the different interpretation of vacancies in the city. And currently we have a Instagram that you hopefully who's following us here in the room? You should be following us, M.Arch grad, and you can see what the students are currently doing in studio, images and reels from our visit to Chicago. And you get a very good impression of exactly these 3 phases I've just quickly walked you through. TMU grad, so that Instagram site will also be up for the winter term, so that the next 2 studio coordinators and instructors will be also posting information on that site as well, so you can follow us through the winter term. So the winter studio is a studio in collaborative practice, so it's slightly different. So architecture is never the product of a single individual. The myth of the star architect, of the heroic and creative genius, is out of step with the reality of architectural practice in our increasingly complex society. Working collaboratively in teams and with input from specialized consultants and stakeholder groups, students develop the design of a complex building, a design process that inquires into analysis, integrates technical, cultural, socioeconomic issues, is stressed. So this winter term, for example, this studio will be set up with Julia Jamrozek, who has a special expertise and social issues around architecture, and will be accompanied with an instructor from practice, Joey Giamo, who is formerly with the office ERA, has his own office established as a heritage architect. So focused on heritage. So this is what would they bring into the series. You can already hear that it's slightly more concrete. These are just examples where the students were dealing with a school from the 60s, and they were thinking of adaptive reuse, how to actually preserve the school and maybe reinterpret it and redesign it. This is another concept around not that school, but another building. Or again, the school project, different ideas around that. Same thing, school project here, a different project that has nothing to do with the school, redeveloping it. So those are the two studios. Not talking about the individual courses now. You'll find that out when you come into the program. So keep it curious for you. And the thesis. What is the actual thesis? I would like to show you some examples there as well. It's titled The Thesis Project. And it's the way we understand that is what I've mentioned just a few minutes back, is the research through design, so that we activate your architectural expertise, your tools that you have developed to research through a design activity and inquire around a topic that interests you. So this thesis gives students the opportunity to complete a significant body of independent design research on a topic of their own choosing, under the supervision and guidance of a committee. So committee means one supervisor, that's your mainly go-to person, a second reader, as I said, you can consult, and then there's a program rep that is actually just there to make sure that you're on track and everything's okay. The thesis is a single work of research engaged in a number of modalities, literature, scholarly, case study analysis, design exploration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Can also be workshop explorations, can be material explorations, can be many, many things. Best suited to the topic at hand. So why are you doing that? What's connected to the intention, connected to the intention of your thesis? Determined by the student and supervisor in a design investigation that serves an appropriate vehicle for the exploration of this topic. So relationship between various research modalities, highly integrated into a coherent body of work, whatever that might be. I'll show you examples. Regardless of how the project is framed, you're required to demonstrate mastery of the various skills and abilities developed over the course of your studies that are commonly used in professional practice in architecture. So this is a thesis, just some images. I'm going to quickly run through some projects so that you get an idea what this thesis project could be. Kevin Poo, Architecture as a Respiratory System from 2015. It's more or less a kind of building investigation. Soft Skin, Anticipating Change for the Future of Architectural Envelope. So what is the envelope of the future? What is the skin of a building, of a space? What is that? Antonio Cunha, Creating Complexity, the Role of Sentience in Parametric Design. So he was exercising parametric design and was not very happy with his own results in the end, but was happy with the process that he actually went through to get this far. Babak Taimuri, Material Computation for a New Equilibrium in Architecture. So this computing forms. Madison Dotsie Perry, Re-engaging the Spirit, Engaging Traditional Anishinaabe Healing Beliefs into an Architecture for Addiction Wellbeing Centers, 2016. So more of a classic kind of building, you would think, but she's basically creating a new typology, a typology that has not existed in this way before, based on, of course, on her research that informs this kind of design movement. So these are more images from that. Gregor Tratnik, The Etymology of Craft. So very craft, we have often very craft focuses. So the in between craftsmanship and industrial production, where's the difference? Where do the two meet? How did that develop? Same here, Ryan Fernandez, Embedded Responsiveness. This is out of a collaboration that we did. We had one kind of small research hub where we collaborated with the Bergen School of Architecture on New Wood architecture. We had 5 students from TMU and 5 students from Bergen, and we worked together with all supervisors from Bergen as well as from Toronto. We did this with Marco Polo as a second supervisor, and we visited each other. We even were able to secure research money so that we had funds to take everyone to Bergen and the Bergen people to come to Toronto. So also opportunities that we have in the program. Matteo Soriano on an architecture of atmosphere. So also focusing around wood and how wood contributes and different wood properties contribute to an atmosphere. Corporeality, a haptic space. Again, on atmospheres, architectural imagery. So how do images drive our architectural understanding? On accidental architecture, so how much is really controlled in a process. Freedom Stone, oniric architecture, so architecture that comes out of a dream world. Sarah Lipset, Body Meets Space, Space Becomes Dress. This was also about enveloping, covering, and became suddenly a kind of sometimes seemed to be a fashion studio, but was actually not. It was around clothing. It was around sheltering yourself. And she had a wonderful exhibition here in the gallery that we have in this building. Yekaterina Korotoyeva, Bodies in Architecture. Just one recent one, Yara Ragap, who won the ARCC award here, Cultural Preservation, Familiarity in Spaces Interrupted by Violence. This is Aleppo that was heavily destroyed in the Civil War, and thinking about how to heal all of those wounds in the souks of Aleppo. So you can find all of these that have been recently published on the digital library at Toronto MU. So you can find this again on this recorded slideshow if you want to go back, or you just go into Rula. It's still called Rula Digital Depository, right? So it has, that name hasn't changed, and you can look into those. As I already mentioned, we have exhibitions, we have awards. This is a view into our gallery. Just last week, we had award night, and it's about 12 awards in the graduate program and another over 40 in the undergraduate program. Some with money, some not. Some is just honors. So application requirements. So before you can do all of that, what I just talked about, you have to get into the program. And that step is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Portfolio, we'd like a portfolio. It's basically around 30 pages, shouldn't be more than 50 megabyte because we can't upload more to the site. Transcripts, unofficial would be okay for this stage, because we know that a lot of you have not finished their 4th year and whatever and don't have official transcripts. Statement of a thesis intent, that is not set in stone. What we would like to see there is that do you have this kind of critical thinking that we wish you and want you to bring with you around a topic? Can you focus on something like that already? Do you have an idea what it could be? Seldomly, students work on a thesis that had anything to do with this thesis statement, but it is something we would like to see how you think, what kind of processing is happening in your mind. A CV, classic letters of reference. If you're coming from Toronto Metropolitan, you do not, is this correct? You do not need reference letters from the last 4 years. So if you're coming, so last 4 years, that means 2021, this is the cutoff. So that means because you're applying in 2024. So if you've finished in 2020 at Toronto Metropolitan, you will need reference letters. These can be academic and non-academic. Doesn't have to be. Everyone thinks, I don't know any professor from 4 years ago, so it doesn't have to be. So it goes to grad reference at Toronto MU. And these are the minimum requirements. Completed a bachelor's degree or equivalent with a minimum grade point average of 3.0. Well, it's not super hard, right? We go down to, if you have a great portfolio, great thesis statement, great CV, and you're a point under or 2, we will definitely take a look at that and consider it, because we know how grades are actually achieved. Achieved a minimum of 3.0 in the last 2 years of study. Possession of the minimum requirements does not guarantee acceptance. So just because you fulfill all the requirements doesn't mean you've secured a spot in the program. So the M.Arch program offers preparation for entry into the profession, admitted with an undergraduate degree in architectural science or its equivalent. You must hold an undergraduate pre-professional degree in architecture that is part of an accredited professional program, CACB or equivalent. College programs and degrees that are not part of an accredited architecture program are normally considered insufficient preparation for admission to the program. So you have to come from an accredited program, okay? And even if you come from an accredited program, there might be something missing that we have often now we have 4 coming in with a conditional offer that need to maybe do a detailing course to make up for something that they missed in their program. Or if they're an international student, this is mostly to international students, I don't know how many are online international, that there will be a directed studies course that will complement your package to make sure that you have done something and understand the architecture in the Canadian context, since you are getting a CACB master's, accredited master's in the end. So how to apply, you find this all online through the drop-down menu. Submitting a complete is a two-stage process. Submit your application through the Ontario University Application Center, OUAC. And 2, prepare your documents to upload to Toronto Metropolitan's Yeats School of Graduate Studies. Yeats. The online system is mandatory. The School of Graduate Studies will not accept any hard copy packages, nor will they be processed. So it's completely digital. And then you follow through all of the steps. Prepare your documents to upload. I'm not going to go through every single one, clearly labeled and everything. Thesis statement, about 500 words, outlining your research interests. You can look at what our program themes are. You can even see what we've been doing so far. You may include a CV, but are not limited to relevant work experience, education, and so on. The CV should also be included in your portfolio. So not only separate, because people reviewing your portfolio would also like to see your CV. And letters of recommendation, I just explained, a minimum of 2. Transcripts, so are required from every accredited institution you have attended. Unofficial transcripts will be accepted for admissions and evaluation purposes. So to make sure that, yep, okay, we can treat that as a complete application at the moment. Students from Ontario universities and colleges will have the option of ordering their transcripts while completing the online application. And the language of transcripts must be in English or a notarized English translation. So don't just send us transcripts we cannot, decode or decipher or whatever. They have to be in English. And also include your grading scales so that we can compare what that grade actually means. And if you've been admitted to the master's program and have confirmed your offer, you'll be required to submit official transcripts after that in a sealed envelope. And if you're taking a spring or summer course and your graduation status has been delayed, you must submit an official transcript with all completed courses and a letter stating your degree requirements have been met and you're eligible to graduate. And if you have withdrawn from a program since applying, yeah, you have to notify us, right? So this is also important for international students. If you have not completed 2 or more years full-time at a Canadian university or a university at which English was the primary language of instruction, or have not completed graduate degrees at a university where English was the primary language, you will have to do a test. So, and the test scores are valid for 2 years. And we accept at the moment, which were these tests we accept? IELTS, TOEFL, and what was the other one? PTE. 5 different ones now. So the portfolio, again, upload to the portal as a single PDF document, not single files. Master of Architecture, your name and everything. You'll find this all on those menus on the site. And on pages 3 and 4, include a summary in your CV, as I just said, up to 30 additional pages, 15 2-page spread, clearly labeled, when we'd like to see that you are the author of this work, or who the author of is, if you collaborated, who are the maybe multiple. That we already had that. So yeah, then you have to fill out this form. And now, so that is important to mention, even though I'm skipping over this, but if I go through every little detail, we'll be here another hour. You have to go through this menu yourself and get familiar with it. If you have questions, you can always come back to us. This is about the application evaluation, so you have to understand, how do we actually look at your submission? And the way we've currently weighted it is the portfolio counts around 30%, your GPA 25, statement of thesis 25, your CV 15, and references 5. So 15 for the CV means what kind of level of experience do you bring in? Have you done co-op? Have you been abroad? Are you coming from an interesting kind of in the transition phase, you've maybe after your undergraduate gone to an office or done something very interesting with an NGO, I don't know, and then you're coming back. So that might be super interesting and important to contribute, because we're also interested in creating a good pedagogical environment, that we have also diverse cultural backgrounds, diverse understanding of architecture, diverse maybe even already executing architecture in different offices or for what else. So this is the way we do that. We're not super strict on that. It's not just pure math, but we have to weight it somehow and take a closer look at it. Sometimes one or the other aspect of these 5 can pull a candidate higher in a consideration. Something that I've started with Mimi in the last year is that we will be looking at specific students, international and domestic students, that we find are very interesting to take a closer look at. And then you will be invited to a personal interview. So it can be a Zoom interview if you're further away, if you're not here. Was your interview in person or on Zoom? In person. Some will be in person. And it's about a 15-20 minute interview where we get to know you a little closer and ask you some questions, and you can ask some questions yourself. So it's not an exam. It's to get to know you a little closer and to see you, pulling you maybe even over as an applicant, to make the process also more clear for you. So again, why architecture at TMU? Critical thinking, small classes, personal supervision, the unique thesis project, making lab, the study tours, Toronto, nice people, nice students that come together. Takes a little for you to gel, but mostly the study tour does the job, and then the students somehow become one nice family. So if you want to get in contact, grad admit, that would be then going directly to you, right, Aina? Or how does that change? Grad help. Okay, so we'll change that on this slide to make sure that you find that. It's still forwarding, but to make sure. Then if you directly to about the program and how the program is administrated, and maybe even some questions around courses or requirements, Mimi Lam can also help out, or of course directly to myself. So that is more or less the end of my presentation. Aina and Mimi, do you have anything to add? Would you like to add? Please come to up front. Do you have any questions up to here now?
I think that's on. Okay. I don't have a lot to add. I'm Ina, and I'm from the Graduate Admissions Office, and we are a separate separate We collect the documentation, we do the academic assessments, and when the application is complete and academically assessed, we send them to the program for the final decisions. Just a few pointers and tips, things that sometimes get missed. As mentioned, it's a 2-part process, and some of you may have already applied, or it's live right now. You can apply now. The part 1 is the online application, which is your basic information. It'll ask you to provide your name and address, your degree background, and so forth. That part of the application will also ask you to provide the referee names. So you are asked to, if you are a non-TMU student, you'll be asked for 2 referees. You have to supply the email addresses there. We will send your referees a form to fill out. So you're not handling any reference material, it goes directly to your referee and they send it back to us. The key sort of critical thing about that though, if you need referees, you're not a TMU student, please follow up and check that the referees have submitted the references. It's the number one sort of problem that can come up, is you think the application is complete and you haven't heard anything and you're waiting and you're waiting. If the application's not complete, it does not go to the assessment stage. And you have to check that referees have submitted, and you can see online whether or not it'll tell you which referee has submitted and which hasn't, and you can follow up directly. So that's my number one tip. Make sure it's complete. Another area sometimes that's missed is the English language proficiency. For domestic applicants, you won't even see it. You won't have to provide any information. However, if you are an international applicant currently studying at TMU or domestically, it will ask you to provide proof. You can't ignore it. If you are already here and you're studying, it's true, we need it, but you have to put something in that field in the application. You would just put currently an Ontario student or a TMU student, not applicable. So don't ignore any fields in the application. Those are sort of the two key points. And the rest, you can monitor the status to a certain extent. You can check if it's complete. Once we have reviewed the application for the academics, you will get a notice from us to say it's been sent to the program. So there is communication throughout the process. If you are waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks and haven't heard anything, please check your application online, check your communications online, and or contact us to find out what's happening. So those are my main
Good.
points.
Good. Thank you,
Everybody.
Ina. Do we have any questions? And before Mimi add something, any questions from, pardon? There are some questions. Okay, let's go. Let's start.
It's not a hard deadline. We have closing dates. We have a first consideration deadline. It's January 19th. So please try to get an application in by then. It's not the end of the story. It just means you're included in the first pool of consideration. I believe you're following the FIAS recommended. If you are an international student, try to get the application in December or complete a little bit earlier. Earlier is better, but we will continue to review first consideration pretty much to the end of January. And after that, it's going to be, we can close at any point. Internationals tends to close fairly early because we get a high volume, but you'll have to keep checking just to see for the closing. So no, there is one hard deadline. International, it's either March 15th or that's the final deadline, but earlier if it's deemed that we have enough applications to finish for a competitive review process. So if you're international, please don't wait. Do December or January at the very latest, because it can close.
Just to add to that, this year we cut off the
Yes.
international because we were just swamped with so many applications and good applications. And our kind of, I would say, the way we'd like to process these things is, and that's why I would take January the 19th very seriously as a deadline. We will processing them very early. So we will be inviting you then most likely early February already into personal interviews, and we'll be putting out offers very quickly. And we want to make sure that those that we put an offer out to, that they are really coming or not. So if you do not come and do not respond to our offer in a kind of grace time, we will move forward with the next offer. That means your offer will be not then considered if you do not confirm your offer. So we want to make sure that if you are attracted by our program and we attract you, that we are already building a kind of relationship that we want to secure. Right? We don't want to, if we're in the pool of, weighing out your options until June, July, or whatever, you are jeopardizing our program at the same time. And we want to make sure that we have a good program with very good students running. And so that's why take the deadline seriously.
Sorry, and just to be clear with the international, what I'm referring to on the website, we have generic dates, sort of March 15th for international, unless otherwise indicated, or the program maintains the right to close at any time. So do apply by January, some point in January, if you are an international applicant.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what else do we have? We have a... Can the application fee be waived?
No.
No, sorry. Scholarships, would you like to answer? Or sure, take a microphone. So scholarships, what's available? What does the process look like?
So the M.Arch program for scholarships, I'm just going to stand over here. It's a little too bright. So generally what we do is one of the reasons why the first consideration deadline is very important is because we start assessing your scholarship is dependent on how you rank compared to other applications. So we determine the first round of offers, and that's the first round of scholarships. Now, if you're offered a scholarship, that is the minimum you'll get that year, because usually what happens is at the end of the admission cycle, we will reassess, given, you know, some people might decline our offers, and then you will likely be given more.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for example, just to make it quite clear, let's say you get an early offer in February. We're offering you 15,000 to come to our program, and you say, "Great, I got 15,000 from TMU," and you're going to sit on that 15,000 until July. No, can't work, because that money is now frozen for us, right? So we say, "You're going to come, get the 15." We give you time to think about it. But if not, we need that money then to attract other students as well. So because we only have a certain budget, right? We can't just throw out money and see who comes. So we have to work with our offers in the same way. Okay, so that's every university tries to play this game to a later game. Some stretch their hand, so they poker high, and they see who comes or not. But if as Mimi said, if we go into a commitment, then we're stuck with that commitment. So if I overstretch my hand, I may be stuck with an exaggerated budget. So that's why we have to make sure that we start a serious relationship as early as possible. I know there are often some conditions and situations where it cannot make that quick decision. That is different. But overall, that should be the intent.
So yeah, with regards to scholarships continuation, this year's cycle of admissions, we're going to have a deadline for your offer, and that offer is the expiry date for your scholarship. After that, we'll have to reassess you'll have to wait till the end of the admission cycle to reassess to see what you might be given. Secondly, for international applicants, it's really difficult and it's limited. So the maximum an international scholarship from our program a student will get is $10,000 for international students. Yeah. Now, you can also, if you have an A- average in your last 2 years, you will automatically be considered for the Ontario Graduate Scholarship. International students get put into a different pool than the domestic ones. And unfortunately, that pool is bigger and more competitive and limited. If you're a domestic student, you'll be contacted by me to provide a supplementary form. And if you are a TMU student, you will have to reach out for some additional references for that specific scholarship.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what else do we have, and how many questions do we have there? 19 in the chat, but are those 19 questions?
Okay, so the next one is roughly how many applicants are chosen each year?
Roughly how many applicants are chosen? 25. We admit 25 students into our program. 25 domestic, and international 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that.
Is there any specific scholarship you can apply to?
Specific scholarships? Yeah. So research that on your own. There are different scholarships you can also apply to. There are OGS scholarships, TMG, Toronto Metropolitan graduate scholarships. So they're all on the website. You can find out what kind of requirements you need. Often they are grade-based. So if you have high grades, you have a high chance of actually securing a grant like that or a scholarship.
Specific question about your status. That's something you should reach out to me personally or
Okay, specific questions around the status, please email directly Mimi and she will respond to that.
Are found online. Depends if you're domestic or international. International is roughly about $25,000 a year. Tuition is due at the beginning of term. A third of the tuition is due at the beginning of each term.
Okay, tuition is due at the beginning of each term. Maybe you should take the mic for that. And type that back, and then 25,000 approximately for international, and what was it, 15,000 for domestic. So those are the fees, annual fees. cheap. Compared to other programs, very affordable, must say, to other master programs. 11 and 12, sorry. Okay, 11 for 11 and 12 for domestic, sorry. Yeah. So anything else we have? That's all. Anyone else want to unmute and ask a question? A few participants have left us, but we're still, it's a high number there. And just to mention it one more time, you will find this presentation online. You can ask questions and forward them to the emails we listed. And one more thing.
About, if you don't have a B.Arch degree, whether or not you can apply. So the easy answer is yes, but the fact is that like it's very difficult. So if you have a significant work experience with your B.Arch or if you don't have a B.Arch degree, but you have significant work experience in the field, we may still consider your application. The issue is that we are considering, in the next few years, we'll be considering students who don't have a B.Arch degree, but that isn't completely in place yet.
Yeah, that has to be figured out in detail. But we want to make sure that you can, as I laid out the program, you can see what it involves. You have to be able also to survive in the program that we're offering. So the undergraduate that we have here in the department prepares you for that. And that is why I would say half of the class that we have now is basically homegrown students, because of course we find them, they are very well prepared for our graduate program. But there are comparable programs, and there are students that are talented or that have other kind of experiences and expertise where we could easily say that student would serve as a good candidate for our program, and that happens as well too. It's not unusual. Anything else from the room? Any questions? Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Mimi and Aina, for your support. And as I said, if you have any questions, please approach us anytime. And looking forward to your applications.